Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to give people a couple more minutes to be able to come on board. We see the attendee list increasing by the minute. So give us a couple of minutes to make sure that everyone is able to get adjusted. Absolutely. So my name is Brandon Graham. I'm the University Relations Manager for the National Black MBA, and I want to say hello to everyone this afternoon and to greet you all. The National Black MBA Association is focused toward the betterment of Black professionals and students and our relationship building with our corporate partners to ensure the availability of success and opportunity. On today, we have our HBCU crash course with our amazing corporate partner, Bank of America. And we have a number of amazing faces today that came from HBCUs that are going to be speaking to you on the alumni keys to success from their experiences as HBCU graduates, but also as Bank of America employees and representatives. And so I'm going to turn over my host and facilitator hat over to Dontia Brown from Bank of America. Dontia.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. And thank you all so much for taking the time out of your day to join Bank of America's HBCU Career Crash Course. Thank you, National Black MBA, for having us. My name is Dontia Brown, and I'm a diversity campus talent acquisition consultant at the bank, where I manage our HBCU partnerships, recruitment initiatives, and several external diversity partnerships, one of which is National Black MBA on the campus front. I actually joined Bank of America by way of the National Black MBA almost 3 years ago. So December 2019, I attended the 2019 National Black MBA conference and found my fit with Bank of America. And I'm very happy to be here today to share with you and to introduce our team, our amazing team of HBCU alumni who will share their insights, who will share their experience as they transition from campus to corporate, how they thrived in spaces that where they are the minority and ultimately just leveled up in their career. I am also an HBCU graduate. I went to Winston-Salem State University, very proud, former HBCU queen. And so I am super excited. I'm going to, with that, turn it over to our panelists so that we can introduce the team. So I will go ahead and turn it over to Ms. Bianca to get us started with her brief introduction. Bianca, if you could just share a little bit about your background and then end us off with one of your HBCU points of pride.
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to be here and welcome everyone. My name is Bianca Brody. I am a proud graduate of Virginia State University, where I received my degree in accounting in undergrad. So, I have been with Bank of America for 13 years, spent 12 of them within the Chief Finance Officer organization, CFO, and then moved to enterprise credit, where I currently do pricing strategy for the wholesale credit part of the organization. A fun fact about Virginia State University: we have quite a few very notable alumni, two of whom are Deshauna Barber, Miss USA 2016, and Reginald F. Lewis, the first Black American to build a billion-dollar company.
Love it. Thank you so much, Bianca. Okay, next I'm going to pass it off to Tia. Tia, if you give us a quick introduction, your background, and then one of your HBCU points of pride as well.
Thank you, Tia. Welcome, everyone. My name is Tia Brown. What did I say? Tia Brown. See how we do Tia? Tia Young. I am a proud graduate of Hampton University. I will say that my pride, and I'll start with that, is really the home by the sea. My first day when I walked on for college tour, I knew that was where my home needs to be. My major was marketing, finance minor. My current role, I am Director and Treasury Product Manager within our Global Transaction Services, which is a part of Global Corporate Investment Banking. What is all that? Basically, I'm a product manager for transactional FX. So we offer our clients cross-currency or foreign exchange solutions for 60 different currencies across 30 different countries. And I am, what I like to say for a product manager, the CEO of my product. So I manage it from end to end, and look forward to this wonderful, I always thrive off of these type of conversations. So hopefully everyone will have fun, sit back and relax.
Fantastic. Thanks, Tia. Jessica, I'm going to pass it off to you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jessica Reed, and I am a proud class of 2015 accounting graduate from the one, the only, the illustrious North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University. On a serious note, upon graduating from A&T, I was offered a position at Bank of America, and I've been here ever since. I've held several roles in my time of being at the bank, but my most recent experience is within the CFO group, supporting the consumer wealth management team on the deposit stress testing and quarter end. I know we have many other HBCUs on the call, and at the end of the day, it's all about supporting one another. But at this moment, I have to brag on my Aggies and be proud that we are the largest HBCU in the world and show the most pride, because you know the saying, Aggies do.
I love it. Yeah, no, Aggies, you definitely cannot compete sometimes with that Aggie pride. I give them a hard time about it because I went to Winston-Salem State just 20 minutes down the road, but it's all HBCU love. Thank you so much, Jessica. I'm going to end with Craig. Craig, can you give us introduction?
Good afternoon. It is afternoon. So I'm a proud graduate of Johnson C. Smith University. The only HBCU in Charlotte. Matter of fact, we're actually on the highest point of the city, which is only right since we are the best and brightest. So thank you guys so much. I didn't come to Bank of America from Johnson C. Smith. I actually came not necessarily from the MBA program, but after receiving my MBA at Northwestern for the J.L. Kellogg Graduate School of Management. So as you guys see, I'm just all about always going to the best and the brightest. One of my notes, so one of the things that's interesting, and we can definitely talk about it throughout this, is I'm actually one of the people at Bank of America who've actually been here 3 different times. So my whole span of career at the bank would be 21 years. I've kind of done it 7 years at a time. I've been downsized, I have resigned, and I've come back. So that is always just another lesson that you always leave in such a way that you can come back. My point of pride for Smith is, even though I already think that we're the best, we're continuing to improve ourselves. We are just recently, for example, the Mayor's Equity Initiative resulted in an $80 million grant to Johnson C. Smith, 20 million of which was from Bank of America, so that we can continue to improve ourselves. So to all of the HBCUs on the call, of course, like you said, we always love you guys. And to Miss A&T, as great as you guys are, you have your colors backwards. It is actually gold and blue, not blue and gold.
I love it. Always a great time with some friendly rivalry. All right, well, let's go ahead and get into the conversation. So we talked about what you all do briefly, or just, the organizations that you represent. So Tia, I would like to start with you. Can you just share a little bit about what inspired you to select your career path? And are you actually working in a career path that's related to the major that you graduated with, to your degree?
Well, so I graduated with a marketing degree from Hampton in 1990 something. And I joined the bank actually right out of undergrad. So I was fortunate enough to be with the bank for almost now over 26 years. And when I came in, all I knew is that this was a place for me, meaning that when I went through the interviewing process and I saw the environment and I just, you could just feel it in your gut. I did not start in the role that I was majored in. I actually started in the operations, managing an operations center. Again, I'm a marketing finance degree. I thought I would be working for some big PR firm doing commercials, something on TV I could brag about to my family and friends. No, I went to a bank. But I will say it was one of my best decisions. I'm glad that I did it. And for me, it helped me understand, don't put yourself in that box. Don't think that just because you major in one thing that you have to go down that path. If I did not choose Bank of America, back then it was Nations Bank, then, I don't think I would be where I am. So I am fortunate that I did step out of that box and not just kind of go straight line into what I thought marketing was supposed to be. Now, I will say this, though. I have been able to use my degree through all of my roles. So I've lived in 4 different cities, 3 countries, and have had maybe only 5 roles, but all of them have come at just, pivotal times in my career. So been very fortunate.
Love that. So keep an open mind. That's gem number 1, and be flexible. Jessica, I want to pass that question off to you. What inspired you to select the career that you're in now?
So to be honest, when I graduated high school, I was like, I love math and science, so engineering is where I'm going to end up. I'll be honest. I started as chemical engineering, went to A&T, declared that major. I was taking all the classes on that track. And then I got to Calculus 3. And I was like, wait a minute, this is no longer math. And so I went to my advisor and she was like, it's only going to get harder from here. So you better make the decision now if you're going to keep going or you're going to try to do something different, because I came in with credits of already taking all of these maths. So Calculus 3 was during my sophomore year. So I still had a little bit of time to figure it out. And so I was like, okay, it's not for me. So I was like, the next best thing will be the School of Business. And so when I went into the School of Business, I talked to my advisor and my mentors there. And I was like, what should I do? Can you give me a little bit about the different majors here? And it's funny to hear Tia Young talk about marketing and how she's in the finance org, because when I was in college, my professors were like, if you do marketing, you typically do marketing. If you do finance, you typically do finance. Supply chain, and so forth. But she was like, accounting, it's an all-in-one bucket. You can do all the majors in the business school. And so I was like, okay, I'll start taking accounting courses. And it just came easy. I started understanding everything because I am a realist. Like what goes in must come out. 1 + 1 should be 2. I'm more of a science, not an art. So I was like, this is accounting. This is what I need. It needs to be right. It needs to be correct. And so to answer your question, am I currently working in my field? I would have to say yes. I am currently working in finance at Bank of America because you remember, accounting encompasses all. It is a management function. And so we can kind of be broad and, have that diverse experience of being in marketing or finance or what have you.
Absolutely. Well, fantastic points. And similar to you both, I graduated with a psychology degree. And while I am in HR today, I did not start my career in HR. I started my career in internal audit. So totally a different path that I did not think I would be taking. But it definitely gave me a lot of exposure and understanding of the business coming in straight out of school. And so I'm glad that I took that path to start, but I'm back into a position that's more aligned with my undergraduate degree, and I love it. But to you all's point, you don't have to major and work, you know, directly in a field that's related. It's about using your transferable skills, and, you know, making sure that, you know, you find a role that's going to be the best fit for you. So with that, I want to talk about college experience. So we all know your college experience is what you make it. And a lot of the time students start building their resumes with like extracurricular activities on campus. So Bianca, I want to pass this question to you. What extracurricular activities did you participate on campus? And how did your involvement in those activities kind of help you in your post-college career path?
Sure. So I was probably kind of that student when I was in undergrad. I was highly active on campus. I participated in the Student Government Association, so SGA, all 4 years, and was the student body president for 2 of those 4 years. I am a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. I was in the honors program and was a Thurgood Marshall Scholar. In addition, I participated in several student organizations, campus organizations, and NABA. So I was kind of all over the place, right? So this involvement helped me in multiple ways. First and foremost, it really honed my leadership skills, learning how to handle difficult conversations, collaboration, of course, organization skills and time management were essential to my success. I really had to learn how to prioritize and be honest about the fact I could not do it all and be everywhere, where I think sometimes when you are particularly a very motivated and ambitious individual, you could stretch yourself very thin. So I had to learn that lesson the hard way pretty early. These opportunities also greatly expanded my network, and it's one of the reasons why I actually ultimately ended up at the bank. So I went to a Thurgood Marshall student conference my junior year of college, where I interviewed with Bank of America and was brought in to be a summer intern between my junior and senior year. Well, if we look at the timeline a little bit, my senior year was when the Great Recession happened. There were no jobs, right? We were all graduating out of college wondering what was next for us. I was exceptionally lucky because I was able to convert that internship into a spot in the 2-year rotational program, which ultimately led to me being here 13 years later.
Wow, that's amazing, an amazing story. And just listening to that, we have some commonalities too. So I'm EMCF scholars, and went to the conference. So
I'm sure we probably crossed paths many times and just never even.
Absolutely. Well, no, great point. I want to also pass that question to Craig. Craig, can you weigh in on that one?
Sure. And it's interesting listening to Bianca's response, because I guess I was the male version of that, just several years earlier than her, because I too was just active in every single thing on campus. I truly believe that if you go to school and you only get your degree, then you have missed 80% of what school was all about. And so I participated in everything, even if some of them was only for 1 semester. So I marched in the band 1 semester. I was a part of the university choir 1 semester because I wanted to have all those different experiences. Pledged Omega, so I was a part of that, but also I was a Duke Scholar, which is the full scholarship at Johnson C. Smith. So I was also active in the Honors College. I too became a member of the Student Government Association. In my case, I was actually a the student board of trustee member for 2 different years. So once again, I did all of those things. Was a part of the internship program and made sure that I did an internship every single year. We actually had some cancer research going on. I was a part of that. So I did every single thing that you can imagine doing, except for sports, on campus. And I agree with her. It was just such a great experience. The one thing it really did for me is that it allowed me to test out boundaries in a safe environment. So as a part of student government, I could find out, do I want to be the kind of leader that's confrontational? Do I want to be the one that works behind the scenes? Do I want to, so it gave me an opportunity to test out different leadership styles, different engagement styles while I was still in a safe environment. I was on campus, my bills were paid, the cafeteria was going to be open. So I wasn't testing out boundaries. in an environment where it was going to be life-changing. And so it allowed me to do that. And also to the other point is that it just provided a lot of great networking opportunities. My first internship, for example, there was a Smith graduate there. So I had somebody that could talk to me about how to navigate corporate America, who understood and who came from where I came from. And then just once I've graduated, just a lot of other networks and just experiences that I still bring with me.
Wow, you guys were busy. You were in everything. No, I thought I was busy. I was also a Student Government Association member, the HBCU Campus Queen, part of the Homecoming Committee and every committee you could probably think of. So yes, it is so important to just exactly your point, Craig, do more than just get your degree, because if you only leave with your degree and you haven't engaged with student organizations or built your network across the campus, then you miss a majority of what college is all about and the experience overall. It's totally different experience. So definitely love those points. Okay, so I will go ahead and shift. So once you get into corporate America or you start your full-time job out of college, immediately you're one of the youngest people on your team or in the organization. You're one of the least experienced there. So how do you maintain your confidence and perform with excellence in an environment where you are the least experienced and also, in our case, the minority? I want to see if Tia can weigh in on that question first.
Sure, thank you. Well, first of all, going to a HBCU with all the Black excellence, we didn't have a choice but to show up. So I think, this is a testament, and I knew I chose the right, school, let it be Hampton or any other HBCUs, because we were built with confidence and going out the door. I will say when I joined the bank again in 1994, I was put into an operations center in 1995. So a year into my career, I was kind of dropped into Dover, Delaware. I don't even need to say more after that, into an operations center, but trusted my leader, who was a Black female, and said, hey, we don't have any leaders, any Black female leaders, any Black leaders at all, let alone female. In that environment, I trust you, you're going to do fine. I mean, literally, I was in tears. And then she kind of pulled me up, and this is where, the beauty of making sure you find the right sponsor person, confidant, for all different pieces. I found mine day one. And to this day, 27 years later, we are still close, and she has been instrumental in my career. So I was put into Dover, Delaware, managing a group of 75 analysts, credit analysts, and nobody looked like me. I was the youngest. Everyone on my team was at least twice or three times my age. But for me, being able to, again, coming from the environment of a strong Black household, as well as from an HBCU, it was understanding my value and knew that I had something to offer there, and trust that my leader who put me there knew it and saw it as well, even if I didn't. So I would say what helped me get through that moment was having that safe circle. It is key whenever you join whatever organization that you develop a safe circle. And that circle should be people that look like you, as well as you need to have some white folks in that circle too, just because they are the ones who also have access to things that we just may not at this point. But I say all to say, it happens, it will continue to happen. Like I said, decades later, I am still sometimes the only Black person in the room. But all my experience and the trust and the confidence that the bank has in me has made a huge difference and continue to build my confidence. To this day, I still sometimes feel like, oh, should I be here? That's that imposter syndrome, kind of sneak it in, but you got to reel it back in and know that you are there for a reason.
Wow, love that. So definitely having a safe circle, your personal board of directors or sponsors and mentors and advocates will definitely help to ease your experience. And also, to your point, making sure that you've got some diversity within your circle, people that also don't look like you. So Jessica, I want to see if you would weigh in on that question as well.
Yeah, sure. So speaking as a Black woman, in a world where, there are many unconscious biases that we are the least skilled or least experienced, although it's not true. Because most times we are the smartest in the room, but as Tia mentioned, that imposter syndrome typically takes over and you start doubting your abilities, you start allowing fear to take over. And then before you know it, you're sitting in the shadow of someone else and you're not being your full self. And so one thing I always have to remember is that we're all human. We all make mistakes. No one is perfect. So I know just as much as the next person that sits beside me. Just because they don't look like me doesn't mean that they know more than me. And one thing that I heard today was knowing that you are enough. If someone asks you to do a job, that means you are enough and you're skilled to do the job. And so you should go in with your best foot forward and knowing that you're going to do a great job. And one of the things in college that stuck with me as well is dressing for success, meaning dressing for the job that you want, not the job that you have. And so most times if you're dressing for the job that you want, you will be the best dressed in the room. And dressing up makes you look good, makes you feel good. And so it just builds your self-confidence. And so when you're speaking concisely with clarity, everybody's listening to you. And that alone just helps build your self-confidence because people are engaged. They want to hear what you have to say because they're like, oh my God, they look good. They're dressed up. Let's pay attention. And so just along with dressing up, I just want to say you have to be, I know working at the bank, you have to be comfortable with change, which means sometimes being comfortable with being uncomfortable. So in order to do that, just ask questions. As Tia said, have that safe place where you can go and speak to someone if something is bothering you or challenging you. Just having that person or that group to give you advice. Also, try to be the first to speak up and smile and just always stay prepared for what's to come.
Wonderful gems, absolutely. So I want to kind of hit on some of the points that both of you mentioned. You both talked about sort of pushing past imposter syndrome, knowing that you are enough, being comfortable, being uncomfortable. So to that point, Bank of America, and I know a lot of other employers, we encourage people to bring their whole selves to work. So what exactly does that mean? What does that mean? And is there any advice that you would provide for students to be able to show up authentically in the workplace? And I want to pass that question to Craig.
Yeah, and it really goes a long way with what Jessica and Tia have already and Ty have already said. The first thing is, as happy and as excited as you are about your new job, please understand that they didn't do you a favor by hiring you. They hired you because you are good at what you do. They hired you because you were qualified. And so you cannot come in being apologetic or overly solicitous because they've hired you. So what do I mean by that? What I mean is that while you don't seek to offend, you're also not responsible for other people's insecurities. And so you go in just being who you are. You go in understanding that I'm worthy, I'm qualified to be here, and I don't have to change who I am in order to fit in. One of the things I've often tried to make sure that people understood about me, and that because of what I understood, is that diversity is more than just your skin color. Diversity is everything about how you do your job. And so for me, for example, I always like having fun. I'm always relaxed. And so when I first got to corporate America, they thought that I was not serious, that I was not a true leader, because I was always laughing and I was always having fun and I was always interacting with people. But that was authentically who Craig is. And so I had to continue to be that. Now, did I take some hits? Yes. Were there potentially some things that I will overlook for? Yes, but it didn't matter to me because it was more important for me to just be who I was. That also means that you have to maintain a life balance even when you're at work. So for example, right, because I am so huge into the HBCU thing, I'm probably on every diversity recruiting team there is at Bank of America, because that's what I enjoy doing. I enjoy doing things at my church and I enjoy doing things with my family at home. And so I make sure that my life is balanced. I'm very active in my church. And so while I don't talk about religion and politics, if a person asks me something, then I'm comfortable saying, here's what I believe, or here's how I feel. So I just think being your authentic self means that you have to make sure that you're balancing balancing your life so that you truly get to do the things that are important to you. This is a job. This is not your life. And so you have to come into it from that standpoint. You have to come into it understanding that they did not hire you as a favor. So there's no reason for you to change who you are. They hired you for who you were. So you should come to work as who you are. Don't seek to offend, but don't feel that you're responsible for other people's insecurities either.
Awesome. Thank you, Craig. Now I'm going to pass that one back to Tia and see if she can weigh in on bringing your authentic self to work as well.
Yes, Craig, wow, you got me feeling goosebumps over here with those words. Thank you. Everything he said and more, I will say for me again, and I wouldn't be here if I couldn't be myself. If you've been somewhere for 20 plus years, then clearly, you feel like you're in a good place. You like to come to work. You like to show up. Otherwise, you're doing yourself a disservice. I am similar to Greg. I'm on every HBCU thing that the bank has. And, T and I have become best buds because of it. I want to make sure that we are represented across all levels of the bank, and the bank, i.e. Tia's team, gives us the opportunity to do just this. Everyone is very, very, proud of their HBCU. So the bank gives us the opportunity to do that. I will also say bring yourself to work. I'm extremely passionate about my community, about, anything and everything that has to do, of course, with minority small-owned businesses. I have done some consultant work outside the bank. Well, the bank has now given me the opportunity to actually leverage the bank's resources to help some of our minority-owned businesses through a program, a minority fintech affiliate program that I'm part of called Breakthrough Lab. So again, being a Black woman, someone that's passionate, someone who is somewhat outspoken at times for things that matter, such as making sure that we receive fair due, I feel supported all the way through. And if it ever comes to a time, and you talk about speaking your mind without feeling like you'll be judged or reprimanded or, basically not have an opportunity, that's part of that safe, where that safe circle comes into. If there's ever an opportunity or there's ever anything I'm feeling uneasy about, I have a call list of people that I can call and say, you know what, this happened and this didn't seem right. Who should I talk to, or how should I approach this? So again, going back to feeling comfortable with being uncomfortable and surrounding myself with people who can give me the tools and resources I need to be able to communicate that.
Amazing, amazing. And just one thing to add to that, when I joined corporate America, I definitely had imposter syndrome, for sure. And I would just say, learn not to shrink yourself, because to Craig's point, you're there for a reason. You were hired because someone saw the value in you and what you could offer. So definitely step into that wholeheartedly. Bring your best self to work, your whole self to work, and don't shrink yourself. We talked about, I know we can get on this topic forever, but like code switching and like, not feeling the need to do that. Be who you are around your grandma, around your coworkers, your friends, your colleagues, but understand the environment as well. So it's a time and a place for everything. But those are just a couple of things that I would add to that. But I totally agree with you all's points. So thank you so much for sharing those gems. So I want to move on to the network. So we are all HBCU graduates. We have a very strong network within our individual colleges, but as well as just the broader HBCU community. It's kind of like a family. So tell me a little bit about how you all have leveraged your network, your HBCU network throughout your career journey. And I want to start with Bianca.
Yeah, sure. Wow, you're right. That HBCU network is unmatched in any capacity whatsoever. So for me, it was very helpful, even, at the start of my career, moving from Virginia to North Carolina when I accepted the role at Bank of America. I already had a network I could reach out to, starting with the alumni chapter of my sorority. Then as I got more involved in the local community and employee networks, I started to develop my own tribe here in Charlotte. Over time, I ended up meeting other HBCU grads who would also introduce me to their network. And then it becomes like 6 degrees of separation, right? Charlotte is a small city, but growing very quickly. And it made it a lot easier to make that transition, but also to make sure I was always keeping in touch with what was going on in my broader community. And quite frankly, I was able to leverage my HBCU background and network to meet people who connected me to other opportunities where I could fulfill my commitment to diversity and inclusion efforts and representation. So this is a perfect example of that, right? So Dantia, I remember when you first joined the bank, we immediately started kicking off around recruiting efforts and trying to make sure we had more HBCU graduates joining the company. And now, 13 years in, I still have my personal kind of phone a friend list of if there are questions, if I'm stepping into a new situation, I'm unsure about something, if I need to bounce ideas off the whiteboard, I have someone I can call in nearly any capacity across all levels of employment, across different lines of business, where I can sit there and say, does this make sense to you? Am I going in the right direction? And even then, this is a perfect example of this. So I hope all of you now consider me part of your network and recognize that that HBCU connection is that real, where you can reach out for advice or any questions that you have, maybe about either any of our backgrounds or what it's like working at Bank of America.
Awesome. Craig, what about you?
Yeah, I would agree with everything she said. The only, just to augment that or add it, or add a few things. So number one, remember, I've already stated that my very first internship, there was a Smith graduate who was already working at that company. Actually, there were actually 2 of them. And so I had that network and I had that ability to go and talk with them. The other thing that I've found is when you graduate, please remember, you're not the only one who's done well. So be intellectually curious enough to see who else is there as well. So, because all of those people now become your network. You're not the only one that made it. Somebody else made it too. So just seek them out. So for example, when you do that, here at Bank of America now, we just started this year a Bank of America Johnson C. Smith alumni employee network, because we realize there are like 25 or 30 of us here. And it doesn't have to just be PWIs that have those kind of networks. We can do the same thing. The other thing, when I say be intellectually curious, when I found out, for example, that the president of Bank of America is on the board of trustees at Johnson C. Smith, I figured if he was on the board of trustees of my school, he had to know me. And so I just emailed him. It didn't matter to me that he was the president of the bank. You are now at my school. So now you and I need to know each other. And so when you're working, you may find out that somebody at your company is doing something at the school, or somebody at your company is an adjunct professor at your school, or they're on the board of visitors. Soon as you find out, make sure they know who you are, because it's your school and they're the visitors, not you. And so it really is about developing it. It's about being intellectually curious enough to find out who is involved specifically with your university. It's about making sure that you understand that others from your university have done well. And then, as the other ones have already said, when you can't find your university, you find any HBCU graduate and you are automatically a part of the same network.
Absolutely.
And Dantia, before we move on, because that was a whole word, Craig, and I'd love to expand upon that really quick, because I think with all of us as HBCU graduates, we have a responsibility when we enter into networks, into a new situation, we're thinking about, what do I need to do to meet these people in order to further myself, you also have the obligation to be reaching back on campus to pull all those people forward, right? So that network goes in both directions, and it's not just about who you are reaching out to, but who you can help to make sure that you're pulling people along with you.
Yeah, you guys just absolutely dropped a whole word. We're going to expand on that a little bit more. So for the people that are like, how do I build my network? I want to talk about social media. So in the era of social media, what advice can you all share about how to build your professional network in a digital age? We've got LinkedIn, we've got, other forms of social media. And I know LinkedIn is a huge platform for professional networking. So Jessica, I'm going to pass that question to you to start. What advice would you share?
Yeah, I'll just share that I will say, once the pandemic happened and everything became digital, I realized how lazy I was with my social media and keeping everything up to date. And so a lot of my friends were like, oh, I got reached out on LinkedIn for this and this and this. And I'm like, well, ain't nobody reaching out to me. What's going on? And then I went on LinkedIn and I'm like, oh, girl, you ain't updated your status for like 5 years. You're still in college. To them, like you don't have no experience or anything. And so the one advice I would say is don't be lazy. Don't be like me. And build a personal brand online as you would in person. So make sure your social media site is up to date. It has everything, that you're currently doing. And the one professional, like you said, Tia, the one professional social media app is LinkedIn. And so one thing I'll say is just keeping your qualifications on demand. So meaning like keeping an updated resume, because you never know. You never know. A lot of my friends got their current jobs just from a LinkedIn connection. Have proper etiquette when meeting remotely. I know we get comfortable by being at home, so you don't dress for the meeting anymore. You don't your etiquette of that professional presence is not the same as if it would be in person. So I would just keep that in mind. I will also keep in mind that less is more. So I learned that the hard way. Even in person, less is more. You want to come with an actual point, get to the point. I will say I read something like the other day or the other week that in this digital age, our attention span has become shorter. So we do not pay attention as much to people as if we would if they were sitting directly in our face and we were, we had to face them and listen to them and answer. But now if someone pings you on LinkedIn or something, you'll say, oh, I'll get to that later. And before you know it, it's a month down the road and you haven't even responded. And so I will say, just be direct, remember things, and your network, it should be meaningful. Less is more. Do not go out and just say, hey, how are you? I just want to connect. And then you don't do anything after that. And so in networking in the digital age, I would say quality over quantity, so that, you can avoid those superficial connections.
Yeah, I like that. It's definitely about building meaningful and mutually beneficial relationships and connections. You could do a lot of that through LinkedIn. I love the fact that the point that you made about building your personal brand online, just as you would in person. So great. Awesome. Now I want to see, before we move on to the next question, did anybody else want to weigh in on the social media networking question? Or just building a brand online, if anything?
I was going to say, this is Tia, the building the brand online. And I am so happy we didn't have Facebook or Instagram or any of that when I was growing up. I'm happy to sit right here talking to you. Be careful. Everything doesn't deserve a comment. Everything doesn't even deserve a post. And especially, I know we're passionate about a lot. Just be mindful that just because you think your Facebook or your IG page or TikTok, whatever it is you do, is private, it's not. The corporations across the world go to social media first, most of the time, before they even talk to you, just to see what does your digital brand look like. So make sure that your brand represents you, just like your parents and your fellow HBCU schools will want you to represent you as well.
No, that's a great point, because Google is out there and it will pull everything that it can find. So we can easily do a Google search on a name or candidate just to see what comes up. So just make sure that you're okay and you're happy with what's out there. And if not,
Exactly.
do you
Yourself,
need
too.
to
I was gonna say, I'm sorry, Google yourself. I Google
Google
myself every
yourself.
now and again for that, something's not looking weird. I mean, there's not too many TYA youngs out there, but still, just make sure that you're actually brand, clean, I should say.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So I want to open it up to all of our panelists to answer this question. What's one piece of career advice that you would give HBCU students who are trying to decide on the right career path or to start their journey with a Fortune 100 company? And I will start with Tia. I know you just weighed in, but I'm going to pass it back to you for that question. If you have any advice.
Sure. I would say kind of what we've been talking about, be open. Don't pin yourself in a corner. Don't put yourself in a box. There are a lot of opportunities that would come to me that I was like, oh no, I don't want to. I mean, Dover, Delaware. Come on now. I was like, no, I don't want to do that. When I was managing relationships that we had with the Department of Defense, I spent 3 days a week in the Pentagon. I didn't want to do that. However, I knew that there was a purpose and it was a mission, and I knew I was going to learn so much from that experience. So even though if I didn't appreciate what I was doing right then and now, I knew I would appreciate in the future, and it would take me to where I need to be. So my one piece of advice is don't box yourself in, be open, challenge yourself, and don't doubt yourself. It goes all the way back to that. If someone asks you to do something, it is because they know you can do it, or at least they know you are a hard worker and you will learn. So don't just, discount things that come your way.
Awesome. Don't box yourself in, be open-minded. Absolutely. Craig, I want to pass it to you next.
Sure. And to pick up on what she said, the reason you don't box yourself in is because you only know what you know. And what I mean by that is that that right now you've majored in accounting. You know right now that you've majored in marketing. You know right now that you've majored in IT. You have no clue what you're going to be doing in your career 20 years from now. And so the advice that I would give you is to find a company that will never say you can't get there from here. You want to make sure that you go to a company that whatever your interest ultimately morphs into, they can still find you a position in their company to do that. So just because you start in accounting doesn't mean that one day you don't want to become a marketing person or you don't want to lead in the accounting area. And you want to make sure that you're with a company that is not going to limit you based on what your career idea is right now, because you don't know what is going to be 20 years from now. You just want to continue to be able to work. So my advice would be, as she's already said, about being open, but not just open about yourself. Make sure you find a company that supports that openness so that regardless of where you want to go, you can still get there.
That is an excellent point, and it's so important when you're considering different companies to work for, because you don't want to be pigeonholed and stuck in your one area without being able to have that mobility. So thanks for that point.
I would tell you, because when I would be in interviews and I would make that statement, and I would tell them, I don't care if you tell me I have to wait for 15 people to die and get 5 other degrees. Just don't say I can never get.
Oh man, no, absolutely. Now I want to pass it to Jessica to weigh in on that as well.
Yeah, Craig out here dropping gems.
Right.
But I do agree with Craig. That's one of the reasons why I chose Bank of America, is because just talking to people that work here, you're not limited to what you majored in. You can try, like I can be in accounting and then I could network with someone in HR, and then before you know it, I could be doing what Dantia, all the great things she's doing. But one thing I will say to that is, if you do decide to try something new or outside of what you majored in, just know your strengths, know your interests, research the market to see what aligns to what your interests are. And then once you understand yourself and all your strengths, you just should be optimistic, have fortitude, and just keep an open mind because the opportunities are endless.
Yes, love that. And then it's so true. I mean, we've got two on the call now that have been with the bank for 20 plus years in multiple roles. So
Yeah.
definitely, I mean, that's definitely a testament to being able to have that mobility and move around. And it's important to know your strengths and see what transferable skills you have that could put you in a good position for, your next move. So thank you, Jessica. And then lastly, Bianca.
So I actually have two things, and since I'm going last, I'm going to take the power privilege here. So first, I would say, don't limit yourself to jobs where you feel you meet every single qualification. Don't be afraid to apply for that job where maybe you only know how to do maybe 50% of the things, right? It is okay to feel uncertain or uncomfortable when stepping into something new. But I will say the biggest strides I have made in my career have always come off the back of those aspirational type roles where it's like, I'm just going to fake it till I make it. And regardless, you're never going to fail, right? You're going to do what you need to do to make it work. And so that has always been huge for me. The second thing I would say is your job is not your life. That should, once you leave college and you start your career, that is not the definition of who you are. That's not the end all be all. Remember that you are still an individual outside of your career. So if that means you are passionate about the arts or dancing or literature or traveling or whatever it is that makes you happy, that feeds you, still pursue those things. Once you enter the workforce, I've seen the biggest mistake for a lot of young people, joining the organization is they get so focused on trying to do such a good job that they lose sight of everything else. And you can't do that, right? That doesn't lead to a fulfilling life. So I would argue, make sure that you continue to feed your passions.
Yeah, that's amazing advice because we can get, like you said, caught up in just trying to knock out the work and, be excellent employees, which we should be, but we shouldn't let that consume our entire life. It's about the balance. So I love that. And then also to your other point about not limiting yourselves to jobs where you meet 100% of the qualifications, because then you're not going to really have that many options if that's what you're looking for. And studies actually show that women tend to do that so much more. Versus men who will see, that they meet like 30-40% of the job description, the qualifications, and still apply. There's been studies that say, 40%, 40 to 50% is the magic number. If you meet at least half or just a little bit less than that, then give it a shot. And don't be afraid of that rejection because, it won't happen if you don't try. So I love that point. Well, all right. Thank you all so much for dropping all of that knowledge, your insight, your experience, and just giving a breath of knowledge to the students and those who are on the call today. So hopefully it was valuable. I am going to pass it back to Brandon to close us out. And with that, I just want to say thank you all for joining again on behalf of Bank of America. And with that, I'll pass it to Brandon.
Absolutely. I learned a lot about you all and about Bank of America, listening to your journeys and the investments that you all have made into your careers, and the love that you have for your HBCU, and that permeates through the call on today. Before we get into closing out, I have this last question. I just want to bounce around to you all because it's an important one for those that are listening. I want you to think during the time period that you were close to graduating or you were pivoting in your career, what would you say to yourself now, looking back to that time period? Because I think that's a very pivotal time for students who are graduating from undergrad, or even a graduate student or working professional. You're looking to change your career. And sometimes you're so stuck in the moment that you kind of forget some tidbits of information and notions that you would share to yourself back then. So what would you say to young Duntia about what her future holds for her?
Yes, now that's an excellent question. And I actually think about this a lot because there's a lot of lessons that I've learned along the way. I would say just kind of keeping the same energy from college, being involved in so many different things, raising my hand, asking questions, networking, is super important. But at the same time, understand your boundaries, understand your capacity, and know when to ask for help, because you're not going to know it all. Craig mentioned before, you don't know what you don't know. And coming out of college, nobody expects you to know it all either. You might have been, that girl in college as a senior, or, and people always looked for you for that guidance, but you need to really seek it when you're starting your career, and expand that network. So I think that's what I would say to myself. Anybody else want to weigh in on that?
I would say that this is just going to be one of many transformational times in your life. So, I think when you graduate, when you're in college, you have control of basically every aspect of your life, control of what classes you're taking, when you're taking them, where you're going. Once you move into, and that's really the time where I would consider you become a full-fledged adult, when you're really standing on your own 2 feet without that security blanket, that things can get a little bit scary. And you're going to come across multiple times like that in your life where you're going to be stepping into the unknown. So I would say just be comfortable with change, be adaptable, and just know this time of uncertainty, you'll get through it, and it'll only make you more prepared for the next time you're going into an uncertain point of life, and everything will be fine.
And always play the long game. Don't win the battle to the exclusion of the war. So there are going to be some things that are just not worth protesting over. There are going to be some things that are just not worth making a fit over, because you may win the battle, but then you lose the ultimate war. So just understand, this is a career you're talking about. And so you have to play the long game. The long game may mean that you need to go back and get another degree. And if that's what the long game means, that's what it means. It may mean that you have to take a position that's a lateral move. It may mean that you have to step up and lead something that you really didn't lead, or you're really not passionate about. That's all okay, because you're playing the long game. So don't get hung up in temporary or time-boxed issues that will then preclude you from doing whatever you may want to do ultimately. So just always play the long game.
Love it. Begin with the end in mind, for sure.
Can I ask a question really quick? I'm sorry, Brandon. So I am feverishly typing. There are so many good questions in the chat box, and I'm sitting here trying to type and respond to some. I don't know if there were a couple that you want to call out, that one in particular that I know we only have about a minute or two that I think we should address. And it was a great question. And I think it was from Booker Washington. We asked about how do you stay motivated in your work environment with all the events going on surrounding racism, in the workplace, especially not working in much diverse environment, seeing others get promotions or better project opportunities. I will say the bank, and I did respond here in the comments, and Tia, you keep me honest here. Let me know when I need to be quiet. But the bank has done a good job of the murder of George Floyd, where we committed $1.25 billion to fighting for racial equality and social economic justice. And there is a powerful Black woman named Ebony Thomas, where they put a resource entirely focused on seeing where that money goes. There's, making sure that it's going to the right places. One of the things that I do at the bank, it is part of that. So when you think about, feeling good about where you are, we all know we were not good and still not good. It's okay with not being okay. We had opportunity, I personally had opportunity to lead a lot of courageous conversations with various, peers as well as leaders. It was open to anyone who wanted to join. And we talked and said words that I didn't think I would ever be able to say, like KKK at Bank of America. Talked about, one of our leaders talked about how, he was threatened by a white man and chased down the street because he was Black and he was going to Harvard. So again, these kind of conversations are happening We are being honest about it. It's right here in front of us. We cannot run away from it. And I know I've made people uncomfortable, and that's okay, because I'm not here to make them feel comfortable. So that's part of my, courageous conversations we have, is just that. I am not here to make you feel comfortable. I'm here to work, and I am just as qualified, if not even more, to do my job and probably your job. So when you think about having opportunities, or you feel like you are not getting the opportunities, you see like others are getting them, only worry about what you can control, which is your performance, and making sure you have the right exposure, making sure that everyone knows what you're doing and what you want to do. Don't assume that everyone knows what you want to do. So to me, again, I get a little passionate about this, but I think, and feel free to reach out to me if you don't want to get any deeper, but I do believe this organization truly values me as a Black woman, at first, and then as their employee.
Right.
I totally agree with that. And I know we will be at the National Black MBA next week. So we will be sharing a little bit more information about our company, about our culture, about some of these initiatives that Tia mentioned. We had over 350 individual courageous conversations at post George Floyd, about conversations about race and how we can, support one another and continue to keep those important discussions going. So great point, Tia. But if you are interested in careers or opportunities with the bank, internships or careers, feel free to visit our campus website, and we can provide that again after the call to our attendees, and our careers website as well. So Brandon, I will go ahead and pass it off.
Absolutely. Again, thank you all so much for supporting us as Bank of America, but also you all as individuals, and showing your HBCU love today on the call, and sharing so much information with our students and our collegiate partners on today. We have a survey that we asked for all attendees to be able to participate in and engage in. And so I'm going to share my screen on that survey, just for everyone to be able to see that and utilize that QR code. But again, Bank of America will be at the National Black MBA Annual Conference this year. That will be in Atlanta, Georgia. I am eager to see my HBCU people. And so make sure you got your shirts and your stuff you got on now, because I'm gonna be looking for you. And so of course, students and scholars and collegiate partners, connect with our panelists today via their LinkedIns once the information is provided, and connect with them at the conference. They will be there. And so we want to make this an organic relationship builder opportunity for students, to provide them more imagery and philosophies of what it looks like to work in these spaces and to be our best selves. Thank you all so much. You have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Look forward to seeing you in Atlanta.